Welcome. Myrna, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, good. So instead of being in the audience tonight, we've got you. Oh, let me turn off Facebook here real quick. I don't want to get the double loop feedback there. There we go. Yeah, instead of being in the audience tonight, we've got you live in the hot seat. So now we can really kind of make you blush a little bit, right?
No. Absolutely. I know there's probably a couple in the audience going to try.
Oh, I'm sure that's always the way it works. So, yeah, well, welcome to everybody who is in the audience tonight. I'm Everett, your host, with Celeste, as usual, and Dr. John, who has disappeared. There he is. Oh, now he's back.
Here's Dr. John.
There he is.
Go by my stores and get you some stuff.
That's
for
right.
Holidays.
That's right. He's got all kinds of fun things.
This isn't that show though. So
no, you're
okay.
The wrong show, John. Wrong one.
Right. So yeah, tonight we are going to be discussing the goals, dating goals, and the importance of dating with purpose, which we will get to find out all about your dating life tonight, Myrna, and what it looks like to date with purpose. So before we get started, we always like to, for those who are new to the show, we always like to get to know our guest a little bit, kind of find out a little bit about who they are, what makes them tick, all that sort of fun stuff. So that way we kind of know why this topic is something that's important to you. So Myrna, having said that, again, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you. Where do you live currently?
I live in St. George. Well, outskirt areas of St. George. Okay. So John and I actually swapped climates because I grew up in Cache Valley.
There you go. There you go. I'm up here cooling off for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a little
cool. I bet. Yeah.
Yes.
And you're warming up.
I came down and my grandparents actually used to snowbird to Beaver Dam, Arizona, which is just about half an hour away. And so so they were here. They're the only people that I knew kind of that were around at all when I moved down here. I packed my car with all my stuff and came down and came to Dixie to go to school. And first February, it was 80 degrees. I was in shorts and I was like, sold, staying.
I do miss it every once in a while. So especially right about now.
Oh, yeah.
I have just driven through. I've never really been there. Driven through like once or twice. That's about it.
Yeah.
So
it's beautiful.
It is.
I hear it's kind of like the Palm Springs of Utah. That's sort of like the nice sunny area that's kind of got like the palm trees and everything else.
Palm trees? Does that palm trees down there?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
The canyon.
I remember that.
Yeah, they have palm trees.
You can always tell when Celeste is like, oh, really? Like there's tarantulas in Texas? Yeah, there are.
I just don't ever remember seeing palm trees. So I'm like, whoa. I've been there many times, but I must not have been paying attention. But that's where everyone goes to retire in Utah. They're going to go to St. George.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When it used to be the big spring break, high school spring break spot. That's I mean, everybody still is down here in the spring, but there's all kinds of stuff going on, ball games and parade of homes and all kinds of stuff. So everybody's down here in the spring. It gets a little crazy, but used to be absolutely nuts. So for high school spring break.
Are you guys getting like a huge influx of people from California moving in?
Oh, so Washington County is actually the fastest growing area in the US, like the last couple of years. So yeah, we have a ton of people moving from California, moving from Arizona. Yeah.
Wow.
Moving south from northern Utah. Yeah, we have so many people moving into the area. Housing's crazy.
I was just about to say, I hear the housing has gone through the roof.
Okay, just for a kind of a housekeeping note, if you're in the audience, please make sure you keep your camera and your microphone off for the show so we can kind of keep everything organized. So Myrna, what do you do? What do you do for work? family, all that stuff. Tell us a little bit about like what's going on in your life right now.
Oh, a lot of work. So I work for a radio broadcasting company. We're locally owned. We have 4 stations. We
Okay.
also have an online news format, and we do digital marketing. So we have a lot going on with a very small staff. We all wear a lot of hats. So
Okay.
that keeps
That's
me
super cool, though.
Well, that's exciting.
that keeps me pretty occupied.
Great. So how did you get involved with that? Do you have a degree in communications, or is this just something you kind of stumbled into?
Just have my associates. That's what I wanted to do if I grew up.
Ah,
So that's what I came down here for, because I knew I was debating. I actually moved to Logan. I was going to go to USU because I knew that they had a college station there. I moved down there, was just living with some roommates, and started looking into applying to USU. Then I realized it was a public radio station. I was like, oh, that's kind of boring. So I got all my junk, all my stuff from senior year back out from high school, and I looked at Weber State and then also Dixie because I knew they had college stations. And then I had taken a random trip sometime in the fall, or it was in the spring. It was in the late spring with my grandparents, and I had came down with them. First time I'd ever been down here. And they just drove us all around up to Gunlock Reservoir and back around into town. And there was the red rocks and the black lava and this was before I was a member. It was in the temple, and it was just green and red and just beautiful. And I was like, you know what? It is gorgeous here. I'm going to dig my Dixie stuff back out. And so
okay. So there's a little tidbit of information that you dropped in there that was sort of interesting, that you did this before you were a member. So I'm taking it you're a convert then as well.
I'm technically a convert. My family's interesting. Oh, Garrett's giving me away so people can
I know.
stop.
I'm like, don't
That's okay. You can listen to my complete goofiness if you want to tune in middays. So, yeah, I kind of grew up in the culture, but not as a member. So in my family, my parents were actually were interesting. So my parents were actually married in the temple. They got married really young, one and only ever time they went. Somewhere around that time, my grandparents were both sealed when they got sealed. So I think somebody kind of was doing some missionary work or something, and my parents were just like, oh, hey, we're going to get married. And they were like, oh, this is where you do it. And by the way, let's get your parents to get sealed while we're doing it, or I don't know, something like that. Because I don't really think that they had a testimony, for sure not of the temple and the covenants that they made, but let alone really of the church. And so that was pretty much, I don't know, because it kind of went on for years. So I have 3 siblings, and there's a 20-year space between my oldest brother and my sister.
Okay.
And I'm in the middle. So it was a kind of a long gap. And in that span of us kids, my brothers were both blessed and baptized, but didn't really totally always go to church at all. I was blessed as a baby, but never baptized. And my sister was neither. So I remember going.
Total? How many siblings total?
siblings.
3 siblings. Okay.
4 of us. 3.
4 total. Okay.
Yeah. 2 girls, 2 boys. So yeah, I remember going to primary maybe once. I was allowed to go to mutual maybe once, maybe twice. But I did get to play softball in the summers, and I did get to attend girls' camp.
Oh, nice.
And girls' camp kind of had a pivotal, had a big point in how I became a member. I got the little paperback Book of Mormon that I received at girls' camp. Somehow made it in the limited stuff that I packed in my car to move to St. George, and came with me when I moved here. I don't know why.
Oh, I do.
I do now, but
Got there.
I have no idea why I even packed that, why I even kept it. I had never even really touched it except for at girls' camp when it was like, okay, here, go read these chapters. And I was like,
Right.
this is lame. You know?
Like, I just want to hear and have fun with my friends.
So was it when you're in girls' camp? Was it just? Sorry, sometimes I see your mouth moving and I don't hear anything from your mic, so I'm not sure if like your mic's cutting out or not.
Sorry, it's probably my internet.
Oh, that's okay. It's that St. George internet, right? So when you're down in
Lame, slow internet.
when you're hang on just a second, there we go. When you're at girls' camp and you have these other girls that are influencing you, what was it in particular that made you decide, like, I want this? Or was it more that you wanted to be kind of doing the same things they did, going to, like, I don't know, church temple trips or whatever?
Because I think I was probably one of 2 or 3 girls at girls' camp that were not members at the time, but we just all were friends. It's small town, super small town. And so we were all friends to some degree or another. But yeah, I wasn't the only. For sure, there was one friend, she was a year older than me. And then I think maybe one other girl somewhere through those 4 years. But it wasn't necessarily then that it was just that I somehow held on to that Book of Mormon from that. I do remember a testimony, a fireside testimony meeting, and now I know that what I felt there was the Spirit.
Mhm.
So I can say that, yeah, I felt the Spirit, even though I didn't really relate to it or know what it was or understand it at the time. But no, it's just kind of more something fun to do, and got to go get away and go to fun places and be with my friends.
Nice. Okay, so you finally, how old were you when you ended up getting baptized then?
23.
23. Okay, so you're out of school, you're in college, or maybe you're done with college at that point. So you're a little bit older. I missed whatever you just said. It was like cut out by your microphone. So there. That's okay. It's like it takes a second. So you'll start saying something, and then like halfway through your sentence, it starts like your audio kicks in. So anyway, so you're 23, you end up joining the church. What happens next? Marriage, you find some guy from the temple. Like, where do we go from here?
It was, well, like I said, I had a lot of friends that were both in and out of the church.
Mhm.
I ended up I had 2 or 3 guy friends that I kind of all got to know in the apartment complex that a lot of us had lived in while we were going to school. And so I was just friends with all of them, and I wrote them on their missions. And so in a certain respect, they were all kind of my missionaries, but they were never pushy, or they
Mhm.
were never really preachy. I was the one that would make them the mixtapes and send them to them so they could still hear, music. I was sending the contraband.
So you had like a couple different guys out on missions. So you're like, all right, who's getting Dear John this week, right? So you just get to pick and choose. Like, okay, wait.
No, we were just completely friends. Like,
Okay.
so
If we had asked them that, were they on the same page with that? Or are they like, oh yeah, we're friends, right? Until we
yeah,
get home.
yeah.
Okay,
Actually,
all
yes.
right. So they would
Yeah,
have
because
agreed.
they would have. In fact, my ex he was one of them. He was one of the 3. But he was actually dating my roommate at the time. She had sent him off,
Oh,
and we had all remained friends. But then when he got home, she started dating the guy she was dating in high school again. And he really wanted to come home and take her out and look towards marrying her. But she was like, no, I think I'm going to go back to the guy I was with in high school. And they ended up getting married, still married.
good.
So
then
we
who
just
did you end
always
up?
been friends.
How did you end up meeting your ex then?
So when we were all in the same apartment complex in school, he had come down just to kind of hang out with his buddies. And he was working. and just getting ready to go on his mission. And so we just became friends, and I really kind of got to know him more because we had all scheduled a night we were going to go do something, go to dinner and go to the movie or something. I can't remember what it was. And everybody else ended up backing out. And so we were the only two that went. And this was right before, I don't even know if he'd gone to the temple yet, but it was really pretty much right before his mission. And I just remember we just went to the drive-in and we were just having dinner and sitting there chatting. And he, was starting to get into missionary mode. And he's like, so what's your deal? What's your deal with the church? What do you know? And what do you feel? How do you feel about Joseph Smith? And how do you feel about the Book of Mormon? He was starting to kind of get some practice in,
You want to see what your testimony was like? Like, if I come back, can I marry this girl, right?
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah,
he was totally
he's testing the waters. He's feeling it out a little bit.
No, because he tried to hook me up with one of his comps and it didn't happen. No, he was really just trying to get to know me and kind of get in, how do I talk to people about the gospel mode? But I really respected how he did it because I was pretty blunt back with him. I was kind of just like, I've seen a little bit of the Book of Mormon. I don't believe it's true. I believe Joseph Smith wrote it, but I don't believe that he translated it. And I don't believe Joseph Smith was a prophet. So I was pretty blunt. But he kind of asked me about my family situation and about kind of other things that I knew about the church. And he just was not judgmental about it at all. Whereas I'd had some roommates and other people that I'd come across through the years that were very judgmental and very like, I don't know, just thought that but then also there were people that knew me that just assumed that I was LDS.
This is all up in Cache Valley, right? So this is up in Cache Valley. Okay. So
Not when I met my ex, but no,
right.
I met him here in St. George.
Okay. So, I'm not from Utah. I think I spent like 6 months in Utah max. But from what I understand, and Celeste and John can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but isn't there sort of like a little bit of a cultural thing in Utah? Like if you're not a member, it's kind of like you're sort of on the outs.
A little,
maybe.
Depends on your area.
It depends on where you live. For sure.
Utah?
Well, just because
you live in Utah,
where you are,
isn't that kind of a Utah thing?
Yeah,
I would say there's more than one Utah.
Yeah, there's Utah County, which is totally different than say like where I grew up in Ogden, where it was a lot more diverse. But I wasn't active, and I definitely was on the outs, even in Utah, even in Ogden. So,
I would say that like even Utah County now is over 500,000 people. That's pretty diverse. Salt Lake's over 1 million, and Ogden's probably over 500,000 too. So I would say go small town Utah. Like if you go to like little tiny towns in Utah, that's where I think it's more distinct. That's where if you're not LDS, it'll stand out a little more, I think. But Salt Lake City's only like 55-60% LDS. So that's a pretty big chunk of non-LDS folks. So
right.
Okay.
But back in the day, it was a little more challenging, I think, than it is.
Yeah.
I had a good friend who was they moved to Utah after their mission, like his whole family, and he was dating this girl. And I remember one time that she was like, I think I know 2 people from my entire high school that weren't LDS and they were weird. And she had left Utah twice in her life, and both times were to go to Idaho. I'm like, that's kind of not really leaving Utah. So it was this weird little thing. Like, how did this happen? Like, something needs to like diversify here. But anyways, I digress. Sorry. Okay. I'm just trying to get this picture here of you and your life and how this must be when you're kind of like not really believing the church and kind of like, well, I don't know. And then going through this whole process. So,
well, growing up, I had a lot of, I had most of my friends were LDS and like I said, I had a few friends that were not. But I did a lot of like my family, we didn't attend regularly anywhere, but we did go to a non-denominational Christian church. We would go to Bible studies quite often, but that was kind of sporadic. Like we seemed to go around Christmas, or we seemed to go around Easter, or there seemed to be longer stretches with like the Bible study groups, things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much how I was raised as far as church goes.
Okay, great. So, okay, you meet your ex. We were kind of down that road. I sort of took us off a tangent here, but so you meet your ex. He's kind of grilling you a little bit, but he's patient with you. He's like, all right, well, I think
Yeah, he was just respectful and non-judgmental with it. And most of my friends were. I mean, they would ask questions, but they would just get to know me, and they would either just accepted it, or, I always had those that would be like, hey, come to family home evening, or come to the singles ward with me, or come do this, or, so I always had invitations, and then there was always the group about, the big
Right.
thing that people always said about coming to Dixie was, oh, it's the party school. And literally, and I was like, oh, I don't know, I'll see. I'm not looking for that anyway. But literally the first week I was here, I got invited to a party, like a drunken out on the strip,
So you're like, this place isn't so bad after all. All right.
I was like, oh no, is it true? But it's just like anywhere. It's what you're looking for. If you're after that, you're going to find it, and you're going to find those people who are after that. And if you're not, then you're going to gravitate to the people who aren't looking or into that either.
Right. Okay. So continuing on your love story, your ex. So how long you went on a mission, obviously, right?
So he served his mission in the Philippines.
Okay.
We wrote his entire mission. He had been dating my roommate. I had been dating his roommate. We had actually broken up. He moved home for the summer. We had actually broken up. And then he had some other girl. She was the send off all the missionaries. I think she had like 5 missionaries she had sent off. And I actually had started kind of reconnecting, because I still wrote him his whole mission just as friends with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know, like, so my ex had come home. I was living with his best friend's little sister, was one of my roommates at that time.
Okay.
And so they would come down to St. George and come hang out, or he ended up coming down a couple times with his friend, and they'd drop in and kind of see his sister, and oh, hey, we're going to go do this. You want to go with us? So I kind of started hanging out a little bit with him. And then he had a mission companion that was from Vegas, who his dad had a car dealership. And so he had actually, when he got home, came home and got a Jeep. And he stopped in on his way back from Vegas after he bought his Jeep to show us his Jeep. Hey, look, I got my, and so we just started hanging out more and more. And all of our friends were kind of like, what's going on? What are you doing? And we're just friends. We're just friends until, the kissing started.
Oh, so you started off for a while friends with benefits, right?
No, not very long, because we started like, I remember we totally had the talk, like, all right, I'm feeling something else, but I don't want to ruin our friendship. We had the talk, like, what is this? Because we don't want to ruin the friendship, but there's,
find the relationship.
That talk. Yeah, I remember we totally had that.
Didn't your parents have that talk with you back in the day?
Oh gosh. No.
I'm just kidding. It's a different talk. You're talking about a different talk. Okay, good.
John gets confused easy.
That's right. I learned so much in graduate school that I don't have room for new stuff. So
right, it's full. No vacancies upstairs. So
that's right. So I have trouble with listening well and to comprehension. So
okay, so how long were you guys married, and kids and all of that? Tell us kind of the bare bones. I mean, we don't need to get into the nitty gritty stuff, but
so we dated for just over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of got a little bit too hot and heavy. We had to visit with the bishop, but we were sealed in the St. George Temple. And then we were married for 5 years.
Okay.
I think, yeah, 5 years before our daughter was born. Kind of had a little struggle, not near like a lot of other people with infertility, to get our daughter here. And then I have a son. So they are 16 and 13. So they keep me busy as teenagers, active, and all the fun stuff that comes along with that, especially the 16-year-old, because she's so much like me. And now driving, now dating, now.
Oh, yes. Well, that's great. So you have 2 kids then.
2 kids. I was married just shy of 18 years.
Okay, great. Now, do you guys co-parent? You guys copacetic with all that?
It has gotten better.
Okay.
So I've been divorced 4 years in March.
Okay.
So it is getting better. There are moments still that I struggle. I just really try to keep it to the co-parenting and try to communicate what I should to be able to co-parent effectively and to the best of my ability.
Keep it kind of on a
Sometimes
business
he
level.
makes that difficult because it's kind of like if it works for him, it should work for everybody. But once in a while, I have to kind of make sure that everybody else is heard, kids and me, and that he's not the only one with a schedule.
He's not.
But yeah,
it's
Now, as far as the church goes, how are the kids, your ex, everybody kind of still on board, or is there kind of a tug of war over being active, inactive, that type of thing?
That's difficult, and that's brought some challenges with my kids because I am still active, and as a convert especially, and going through everything trial with the divorce, I found even more comfort and more peace in that, and more affirmation that this is correct and that we're blessed by living it. You talk about those tender mercies. I had so many of those little moments as I was going through my separation and the divorce that I just, even though as rough as it was, as difficult as it was, I knew that the Lord was watching out for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I found a lot of comfort I would go to the temple alone, so I found a lot of peace and comfort and just go to the temple, randomly force myself to go. And it was very difficult. You talk about sitting in sacrament sometimes, or Sunday school, and how it really hits you that by no fault of your own necessarily, or by not your own choice, you no longer have an eternal family. And those can be some really hard. And I think some people can't get past that pain or
right.
that. And so it turns them away from attending church, or it turns them away from attending the temple. So, no, so yeah, my ex is no longer a member. He kind of chose that before
it was chosen.
Before it was chosen for him. Yeah. And his new wife, also very adamant, very anti, very vocal about that. And so, yeah, my kids at times have had to sit at the dinner table and hear some rants. So especially with my daughter, she's a little bit older. I think every teenager goes through a little rebellion, or a little test the waters, or a little exploration. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think she's having a little bit of that right now. She's decided she really likes coffee, and
I sort of feel like
things like that.
As teenagers, you kind of want the path of least resistance, right? Like, if this was what I want to do, I'm going to take the parent that's going to give me the easiest path to do what I want to do, sort of thing. Yeah,
Absolutely. And the most freedom, or what teenager really, not very many teenagers are going to get up on their own and get to church on time, by their own free will and choice. It takes some prodding, right?
well, that's good.
And if well, good.
Yeah, they gotta watch for all the right reasons if that's what they're doing.
Right.
Absolutely. Or there's enough friendship there or something that,
Yeah, either
that-
friendship
that
or they
they're-
just feel at peace there. One of the two or both.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
so yeah,
Okay.
that's a little bit of a challenge because they do not have the same rules necessarily in both households.
So it's funny how much kind of going through this experience and looking on our past experiences help build our future dating life and how that's going to play out, because we start looking at things through kind of a lens of, this is what I want, this is what I don't want again. I've been down this road before. And sometimes we can kind of start creating red flags where red flags don't exist, right? Like I'm sure John knows all about this, but I've seen people who say like, well, my ex did X, Y, or Z, so I will never date anybody who plays video games, or I don't know, watches football on Sunday, or whatever it might be, right? Like, because it was such a problem, and they overcompensate and kind of paint that with a broad brush on everybody. So when we're talking about moving forward in your dating life, let's talk about post-divorce. How's that been going? What have you been up to since then?
Well, at first, when I first jumped onto dating apps or started to kind of get out there a little bit, really at first, it was therapy. And I probably got onto it too soon because I'm sure I was just purging, and venting, and it was just not good. I think, it was kind of therapy. I needed kind of to know, because it was the biggest issue in my divorce was his it left me. He was cheating multiple ways.
Okay.
But
His side
anyway,
hustles, we'll call it.
Yeah, a lot of side hustles.
Yeah.
So that's a big gut punch. That is a big hit to your self-confidence. That is a big hit to your self-esteem, especially when you felt loved, and when you were told you were loved, and when you were told you were sexy, and when and you thought, I thought we had it. I think a lot of people say this, like, I didn't think it would ever be me. Like, none of our friends, none of our family, I didn't expect to be mid-40s and divorced.
Right.
Amen.
So yeah, I just felt like we had a lot of, you kind of compare yourself to other married couples. Like, we communicated, we worked together, we played together, we enjoyed a lot of the same hobbies and pastimes. So family life was great. I really can't complain about a lot of those things. So it was a big hit for me. I had to kind of get out there a little bit and at first I talked to anybody just to kind of talk, and it was like therapy, and it was a little bit of like, all right, how bad is it? I don't necessarily want to be out there yet, but how bad is it? Who is out there? And do I have anything still to offer anybody?
For your friends, like, obviously, Myrna, it's bad. Don't do it. Stay inside, lock the doors. It's bad.
But nobody, I don't have it. I still don't really, I've made single friends, but all my closest friends are married, so no, I didn't have any single friends to really turn to or get advice from, or that way. I was kind of on my own as far as that went. So
that's kind of my scenario. Like, all of my friends were married. Major majority of them still are. I've met a few since I've hit the single scene, but I just remember being like, I felt like a fish out of water. Like, when I had last dated, it was mid-90s, and so there was no dating apps. We didn't have cell phones. Like, it was just so different and such a drastic change that I remember being like, I genuinely just joined some of these groups so that I could have friends that were single, because I didn't have any. And I kind of just got thrown into this crazy world where I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And it was hard for me to adapt. It took me a while to like really figure out like, which direction I wanted to head and how to handle it all. It was just crazy. Did you feel, since you were married 18 years, I'm assuming there was a big gap in just the way people
Oh,
date nowadays, right?
completely new ballgame. Not only method and how you meet people and how you interact with people, but just the apps,
Oh
everything.
yeah,
It's
I can't do that.
Online etiquette,
and I
like
wish
how you say things and what you do and don't say and how it's phrased. And I'm just like, I don't know any of this stuff. It was so crazy.
I really wish that I would have found groups like this and other groups before to kind of give me that in between, or a little bit of get my feet wet before I jumped onto dating apps and that sort of thing. I think it would have been beneficial. But I was also very cautious. Like, I didn't even have a profile picture at first for just months, but this was even before the divorce was final. So I was kind of seeing what was there and talking, but I didn't even meet anybody for months. I was very clear with, I'm still married, we're separated, we're divorcing. But so like the very first person I ever met, I think we talked for 3 months before we ever met each other. And then it was just more, we just became friends. So, but yeah, there were a lot of guys that I talked to that in no way, shape, or form or who I really would date or wanted, or their lifestyles, how they, so it didn't take me very long to be like, yeah, no, I know who I am still. And that's not what I'm looking for. But it did kind of give me some therapy and okay, so yeah, people do still find me. There's some people that still do find me attractive. Okay, I do have something to offer. Okay, I'm not this prude, stick up my butt lady, So
And here's the thing. Even if you were, I think that's okay. Like, if that's you, then be you. Like, don't try and change yourself or lower your standards just to try and feel like you need to fit in or find somebody.
absolutely. And I think there's such almost an identity crisis. Part of it is just because you're going back to a me, an I from a we or us, right? In divorce.
Absolutely.
So I think that is the biggest identity. But then I think some people try to completely reinvent themselves, or they just don't know who they are alone, or never knew without that spouse, or I don't know, whatever. But in fact, my sister-in-law has said to me, you're gonna find out, who you are and what you like and I thought about it a little bit, and I thought, no, I still believe all the same things. I still like the same flavor of ice cream. I still like the same pastimes. I still like the same football team. No, okay, I know who I am.
Okay, I do have to ask though, what football team is that?
Go Utes.
Oh, okay, college football.
Mostly college. I used to be a Redskins fan. Now, so yeah.
There's no more Redskins.
Sorry,
I
just
know all that
puked in my mouth a little bit
garbage.
there for
Now
a second.
I can't even deal with the NFL really anymore.
Yeah.
It's just
like I'm boycotting them.
hiding too much drama.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And your Utes just destroyed Oregon twice to win
Nice. Do you
Pac-12,
believe
which is
it?
fantastic. So yeah,
I know.
that was awesome. Anybody that beats the heck out of the Ducks, I'm all for it. So anyways, total tangent. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I know coming off of a divorce, especially after you've been married you guys were married 18 years. And then, so is that after, towards the end, was there kind of a period of time where you were like, we've been separated for a year or two and you're kind of already starting to put yourself out there? Or did you completely wait till the end?
Well, no, I didn't completely honestly wait till the end. I started because, but I was very cautious and had very set boundaries as I did that. Mostly it was talking to people like apps or Facebook groups or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did slowly kind of begin to date, but with very strong boundaries. Like, okay, hey, I will meet you, but it's going to be in a public place. There will be no There's not going to be any kissing. There's not going to be any hand holding. There's not going to be, because even though, and some people may disagree with that, like, nope, you shouldn't have done anything until you were, but I knew where it was. And like I said, I probably jumped into actual dating too soon, but it's a process, right? So I did, but I was like, okay, here's my boundaries. And I was very upfront and honest. It wasn't like, I didn't say I'm divorced. I said, I'm separated, divorce pending. I was very clear with people. And I was very like, there's not going to be any physical, I'm not going to really date you or have another relationship until my divorce is final. So I was very clear with that with people. And most people were very respectful of that. And really, those people that I met that were respectful with that, I'm still friends with, and they've either moved on and gotten remarried or they're still single and doing their thing. So those that weren't, then yeah, it was,
I've noticed
intentions were shown.
I've noticed this, I've noticed this in the church sometimes when one leaves the church and their values become such that having sex outside of marriage is not that big of a deal anymore. They've already cheated. And a lot of times what they'll do, they'll be shacking up with other people while they drag out the divorce for a year or more, knowing that you have to stay celibate because you're honoring your covenants. And to me, that just seems wrong. Do I think we ought to go out and be making out while we're still married if we're, keeping those covenants? No, but I like how you put it. If I'm being really upfront with you, I'm, setting those boundaries. We're meeting in public places. As long as someone's upfront with me, so I can kind of guard my heart and not like fall in love with somebody that's got another year to go on their divorce, like that's not fair either. But yeah, it just seems like that is fair as long as we're open. So
yeah, I don't know, even though it really was just a piece of paper because it wasn't finalized, it still meant something to me. It meant something to follow through and see that through to the end and uphold that on my end.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a good thing. So you kind of get back in, you're diving into this thing. You probably got on some of the apps and realized, holy cow, there's some real weirdos on here, because I feel like the apps are like, that's kind of where the weirdos lurk. That's why John's on so many of them. So
Oh man.
That could not be
Love.
further from the truth, and you know it, sir. I
Right,
demand you to retract your statement immediately.
Okay, I apologize. John got off last week, so we should clarify that. So.
That's true.
But yeah, it can be difficult, especially, Celeste was just talking about this. Once you get in there for the first time after a long time, it's almost like you're just in a whirlpool and trying to figure out where to swim. Like, how do you get out of this thing? And
Not even just swim. Like I just wanted to surface. Like I felt like I was drowning and I didn't know what to think or do or say, or like, I was just like, what the heck? I don't know what I'm doing. And then I had people reaching out. I didn't know how to deal with it. It was just really overwhelming, but
But then also, how do you meet people? Like, the cool thing about apps, I've actually met 3 or 4 people that I went to high school with, never knew in high school because of age difference or whatever, because we met on a dating app, never would have known them otherwise, or never would have remembered them otherwise. But we have all these connections, friends and other people we went to school with, or his grandma's house could be seen across the field from my house, whatever it was, like, so that's kind of the cool thing about apps. But yeah, it's not like when we were in our 20s, there's not those same opportunities, especially when you're working and raising kids. You don't have the same opportunities to meet people in real life.
right.
I've often said it sort of feels a little bit like you're playing musical chairs and the music has stopped and you just look around and realize, I don't want to sit in any of the chairs that are available. Like, do I have to play this game? Can I get out of here?
Can I just like stand until
Like they have different
Right.
pies in each chair, and so you're
Right.
gonna sit in a pie either way.
Or it's a chair with like a broken leg, and if you sit on it, it's going to collapse.
Well,
like,
And some of those
I-
pies
I-
are pies.
But that cow pie is absolutely.
Yeah, I do think there's a gender difference too, because I listen, I'll be honest with you, I feel like I have more options than probably the average sister my age who's like got the same qualities as me and that kind of thing. I just think of all things being equal, if I were a woman looking online, I think it would be harder, to be quite honest, you know, and I don't mean to diss my own gender, but I think it probably is that way when you look at it. But I sometimes have found, I actually, especially back when I dated between divorces, I was in Utah County, and I swear to you, there were, I mean, I would do searches on those apps and I would find 350 women, and they're all beautiful and they're all like active in the church and they're all, you know, and I would just be like, what in the world am I supposed to do? Like,
Right.
where do I even begin? And like, and you know, it's a minefield, because out of that 350, probably 100 of them are really deeply hurt and messed up and or just not healed yet, not to where they need to be. And so this time it's not quite that, you know, but I have found that there are multiple people that where I feel like I could be happy with this person. But so sometimes there's not enough options. And I do think sometimes there really are too many options. And I guess two is too many, really.
Well, that's what
you
I was
know?
going to say, especially for men that are still active in the church, that have their ducks in a row. Yeah, I think there's definitely a disparity between men and women. There's just more women in the world, first of all. Then
I
there's
was
more
gonna say,
women that
there's
are
just
still
more.
active in the church.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes on the female side, I think it's, yeah, there's not that many to choose from. On the male side, sometimes I think it's the opposite problem. There's too many choices. And so it's like, oh, another pretty butterfly. Oh, another pretty butterfly, you know?
Yeah. I think in my case, it's more just, you don't want to hurt anybody. You know, you're trying to, you know, and who know, you know, have to admit, I don't know what I'm doing, you know, like I feel like, and you don't want to single out someone too early, you know, you know, because I don't know if I'm supposed to be with this person. And yet at the same time, you don't want one to get away either, you know, because you dragged your feet for too long. So yeah, anyway, it's confusing either way. I guess one is frustrating when you don't have enough options, and the other one is confusing, and that's frustrating in its own way as well. So
Well, and then the next thing is, you know, when you do get into any relationship, and if maybe those don't fail. So I've had two guys that I dated, one guy for about 7 or 8 months, another guy for 9 months, both great guys, both now married. One of them actually was divorced when we started dating from his wife for a year and is now remarried to his ex. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And we were actually to the point where we were talking about marriage and having those financial discussions and where would we live. And that was really kind of getting there to us. So that's kind of a bummer, you know, things don't work out. But then also they're really happy now. Their families, you know, they were still sealed. Now their family's back intact and doing well. So I can't really fault him for that. More power to him. If they're like that 3%,
right.
that can make it work.
See, I kind of feel a little bit like some of this is perspective too. Like, you know, I hear a guy say like, oh, we've just got way too many choices. But then you come out to like Portland or something, and I feel like everybody has very few choices out here, right?
I've heard that.
Yeah, I mean, both sides of the aisle, you're just sort of like, there's not a whole lot out in Oregon or Washington, Pacific Northwest, whatever. I mean, there are people. I shouldn't say there's not a whole lot, but you've got to start factoring in how many people stay active in the church and what you're looking for and all that kind of stuff. And once you kind of narrow it down to really what you're trying to find, then you're like, okay, now it's like I used to say it was like a needle in the haystack, but I kind of feel like it's more like the eye of a needle in a haystack, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm not going to find this without some divine help here somehow. So what kind of things are you doing then, other than obviously you started with the dating app? You've kind of gone out with some other people. Do you go to like a singles ward, or do they
No,
have a
because
singles ward there?
I have a calling in my home ward, and I try to go with my kids when they're with me every other weekend,
Okay.
every other week, but when they're with me. And I did try to kind of get involved with the local singles ward, and I would do temple night. I didn't really know a lot of people, but now I'm aged out of that. So I still monitor it and stuff. And I've tried to go to a couple dances. I did, like, within the last 6 months, kind of get to know a group of people, and it kind of spurred off of a dinner group that kind of spurred off of the singles ward.
Uh-huh.
And so we kind of would do a few activities. So I've done a couple things with that, and that's been really good, because really, I've said from the get-go, I would love to just kind of build some friendships and kind of have some networking, or some learn about some activities and like-minded people,
Mhm.
in more than one way, single and then also in the church. So I've been able to kind of break through and kind of make a few friends that way. There's not always a lot going on, or things that of course, when I have my kids or not, I don't have the opportunity to attend something between that and work, but I will try. But really, I do close to my girlfriends. I love you, I adore you, but I don't have any single girlfriends. So I've really tried to, more than trying to date, more than trying to find someone, get involved with things like that, activities or things like that, to make single girlfriends.
Yeah.
Somebody that I can have a relationship with. And so I've been able to do a little bit that way. I'm still trying to get involved more that way. I think there's a fine line between being anxiously engaged and trying to date and put yourself out there and to meet people and be obsessing with it, and then getting discouraged when things don't happen.
Yeah, I think it's better to take the risk and, with the possibility that it won't work out, rather than just sitting back and avoiding pain. I will say there was a time in my healing experience where I had to step away and just heal the pain, and I think that's important, but at some point you got to be brave. The healing it may not be complete, but it's most of the way there. And at some point you just gotta go for it.
Yeah.
I keep telling myself that anyway.
Keep moving forward, right? You have to put in some of your effort. You have to do something. You can't just wait for the Lord to drop that perfect person on your doorstep.
Right.
I think there is some divine intervention that happens.
Sorry.
Yeah, it would be great, but it takes some action on our part, I think.
It does, but you'll find, and I'm sure you have seen on a lot of those groups, LDS groups, that that is what they're looking for. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to live my best life, and the Lord's going to bring me whoever. And I think I see what they're trying to say, but the truth is, if you don't put yourself out there, why would the Lord force someone into your life? Like, you still have to, there's agency, like that agency. It's not like the Lord's gonna be like, okay, John, I'm gonna pick you up and stick you in front of whatever, because he's waiting for you. No, like, there's agency on both sides. You have to be able, willing to move forward and take steps.
Absolutely. And that's what I meant by the balance.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by the balance. You have to put yourself out there, but you can't be obsessed with it or get too down over it or not balance out the rest of your life. You still have to, be your best and try to grow your own things on your own and be strong on your own. Love your kids, love your family, do your family stuff, do your, adulting.
build your career, like get yourself in good, work on getting in shape, work on getting in a good financial situation, all of that. And I think there are some people who don't heal long enough before they date. And I think there are other people who have healed plenty and don't date, and it's kind of like, you gotta find that balance, to where don't rush in, but don't drag your feet.
Well, I think that that's a goal, right? I think since we're talking goals and how to get from where we're at to dating to, a marriage, I think that setting a goal to figure out, like, where am I at currently? Am I in a place where I can date? Or do I need to take steps to heal? And then if I feel like, okay, I'm healed enough, then, okay, what steps do I need to take to be the person that I would, because sometimes you attract who you are, right? So if you're looking for someone, you need to kind of reflect those type of attributes. So, like maybe look at ways you can improve yourself, or, become centered on good things so that the right person or the person you're interested in will come into your life.
Absolutely. I think that's the first thing. Like, look at yourself. Okay, what was maybe my part in the divorce, or maybe my part in never being married, or maybe my part in whatever, failed relationship, or look at, what do I want for myself in my life? Do I want to be in better shape? Do I want to focus on a career? Do I want to focus on my, those things? Because we set goals with all of those things, right? So I think that's the first step in setting goals in dating, is set goals for your own life in general. And people always talk about, I really hate the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years older.
Idea.
I can envision, and I have dreams and hopes and aspirations, but where I envisioned myself 5 years ago is certainly not where I am today.
Right.
And that had nothing to do with my goals.
Right.
Or how much work I put into those goals. So sometimes we have to regroup a little bit of that. But yeah, I think the first goal in dating, which kind of ties into this, is knowing yourself, knowing who you are, knowing your strengths, or trying to work on weaknesses, build other things, and being confident in what you are, and self-assured in what you are, because that helps you know what you're looking for.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep.
I think if you're unsure of who you are, and even if it's like, am I a good enough person, or, because we all kind of go through that after a divorce, we're kind of like, dang, am I even of value? Right. So
Exactly.
you have to kind of get to that place where, like, no, I am of value. I can be a good wife again, or husband again. I can be loved. Or else it's kind of like, maybe that would be a hang up down the road. So you got to definitely focus on your own personal emotional wellness before moving forward, I would assume. John, what do you think? Is that legit?
Amen. Why interrupt when you're saying the right stuff, man?
Thank
So
you.
yeah, I mean, and we've also mentioned some healing has to take place alone, some of it takes place with support, and
in different ways.
Yeah, we got to differentiate between those things too. I was gonna say, when I've dated, and those first couple of years after the most recent divorce, I would come home and be so drained, and these were not drama, women with drama, or, I mean, they were great people, but I would just come home and just be like, I just can't do it, man. And that was a clear sign to me that it's not dating that's the problem. It's not these women that's the problem. I am hurt. Like, I am jacked up, and so you're kind of like, I'm no good to anybody as far as dating goes. I'm still a great friend. I'm still a good dad to my kids. I co-parent well with my ex, but I just can't do it right now. And it's okay to just admit that. Look in the mirror and just go, you're not ready. You're not ready. My concern is that people are still saying that when they've been ready for a year. You know, it's like, no. You don't have to be perfectly ready. You can still have dates where you feel like, wow, that really drained me. Sometimes it really is they haven't healed.
It's just the process, right?
Yeah. I just think we got to just get strong enough so that you can handle the process without falling apart, you know, and then enjoy the process, even though sometimes it's frustrating.
Yeah, sometimes it is just a process, and you just, you know, I can't tell you how many first dates I've been on, but it's part of the process.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we've talked about this quite a bit on the show here. And I sort of feel like one of the things that tends to happen when people get divorced, obviously there's that void. We want to fill it. We want to kind of heal, and we want to rush that because nobody wants to sit in that any longer than they have to. But I really, truly believe a big part of that is having an honest evaluation of ourselves and being honest about, okay, this was my part, whether it was good or bad. Maybe it's ugly and it's hard to face, but at the same time, face it, because you don't want to just carry those problems into another relationship. But even more so than that, what do I need to heal? And then what do I need to look for so that when I'm moving forward, it's in a healthy way and it's with the right type of relationship that I need. And I think all too often people just, when you rush that process, you can't kind of check off those boxes of healing and appropriate like direction in your life, all of that kind of stuff. So
no, it really does take some time in getting out there a little bit. And like I said, when I first started, I know I was just still purging, you know, but now, like 3+ years in, when even in chatting with someone, you can just see that in people. You get, wow, you are not there yet, you know, and you just can recognize that. And but I try to be sensitive to that, or I try to be a listening ear sometimes. But then also when you can tell they're just not healed enough to be vulnerable or to be open, you know, then you have to back up a little bit.
Yeah. So then obviously we're talking a lot about people who, you've been through a divorce, I've been through it, John, Celeste, we've all been through a divorce, but what do we say to those people who have struggled and have never found somebody? How do you give them direction when they're like, I don't relate to what you're saying? Like, I don't feel that sense of hurt from a past relationship. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
It hurts, right? But maybe it's
Well, but we've all been hurt somehow.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, how many of us how can you get to the age of 35 or 40 without being hurt, you know? And if you're never married, does that hurt?
It hurts.
Yeah.
I think especially in our church, it's like it's extra hard to
And
be
if you're
in our
divorced,
age group.
if you're
Yeah.
a widow, it hurts. If you're
Yeah.
a widower, you know, there's all kinds of things that, or if you lost a child, or if you lost a parent, or if you know, there's other things that hurt besides just marriage related stuff. And the point is that hurt can hold us back from establishing really healthy relationships, you know, at this point in our lives. You know, it always could. It's just that we've had more time to collect the hurts, you know?
Well, I think even some people get comfortable, and maybe this is just my perception, with like 30 somethings never married. Correct me if I'm wrong, if there's some of those people in the audience, but I think some people get really comfortable in that. It seems to be like in the groups, sometimes those are the party planners. They're the constant party planners and the social butterflies and the ones, and so they almost kind of take on that role. And so
I'll bring everyone else together while I watch, you know, and
yeah, they get
really
comfortable
get
in that. They want to be involved or out there, but they're the party planners, and then they don't ever really take part themselves. That almost becomes their identity.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my perception. I think that even some divorced people do that because they're afraid to get hurt again, so they just are having fun, and so they kind of fall into that role too.
For sure. And
think-
and we probably all know some single people who just say, forget about it. I'm just gonna have casual sexual relationships and just have fun, and I'm just not gonna do the whole active member thing.
Lot, especially men there. It's probably been a couple weeks, but I was chatting with a guy on an app, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be in St. George soon." And however the conversation went, but I was kind of trying to see, okay, so I can't remember what he said. He said, "Oh, well, there's just as many women that are out there looking for something on the side or whatever." And I'm like, "Hey, if you're that guy, if you're the side guy, if you're there's a word for it, F boys,
Right.
if that's you and that's what by hurt or pain, or you've just chosen to do that for your own fun, then I'm not your gal."
Right. Yeah, we definitely got to have boundaries around that. I do think there's a growing number of women in that category,
Yes.
and there's a growing number of a lot of troubling things in our society right now. In case you noticed.
And not just in the church.
Yeah.
In general, it's kind of going crazy. But it's interesting as we're kind of discussing all this. I know and I'm sure everybody's heard about SMART goals, right? Like that's just realistic, like life goals, right? But I think some of that can actually go along with dating too, like being specific, like what are you looking for? I think sometimes, since especially for men, it sounds, there's just so many to choose from, right? And how do you decide, okay, well, I've got all these women that are interested.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. If you live in Virginia, or if you live in even like Washington State or parts of California, maybe you're in the same boat as the women here, where there's just not a lot to choose from.
I think that's why more people choose to date non-members when they don't live in Utah, Idaho, Arizona.
The thing is, John, is that you tend to have, where'd he go? I can't tease him.
I'm here.
Hey, John, I'm teasing you about having like a big supply of women.
You hurt my feelings and I left, but I'm back. No, I'm just kidding.
So how do you be specific, John, when you've got all these women after you? Like, how do you chisel that down?
I never said that.
You don't have to say that. I've witnessed it with my own eyes.
No. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Listen, I think we have to follow the Spirit either way. And the Spirit, if you're in a place where you don't have a lot to choose from, you're gonna have to follow the Spirit to find that diamond in the rough that's probably there, but you just don't know about him yet.
Right.
And if there's too many to choose from, you're gonna have to follow the Spirit to let the Spirit narrow it down, instead of you trying to figure it all out. I mean, if you go through all the little things you're looking for, you're gonna drive yourself nuts. And that's the thing. I want anyone I date to know that if it turns out that we, date each other, or I date someone else, I don't want them to feel like there was something wrong with them. That's just where the Spirit led me. It wasn't how you looked. It wasn't how your accent, or, it's not these superficial things. It's just, sometimes you don't know. The Spirit just tells you things and you're just like, I don't know why. I'm just really drawn to this person and feel like I'm supposed to share my life with them, at least for now. And that may just turn into a lesson about, they can teach you things that you need to know, or it could be permanent, and it's hard to say. So
I think that you brought up a good point, because yes, we need to be specific, but we can be over specific, right? We can be too focused. And
don't overthink it.
And then there's a lot of people that could fit into our lives and make us a better person, and we've kind of discounted them because, I don't know, he doesn't have blue eyes or whatever. Like we can be overly specific and really hinder ourselves in the long run.
Right.
Yeah,
Although
I've heard people that make this list.
I can understand women holding out for blue eyes, though. That really is the way to go.
So. Is that how you got the trail of women?
Yeah, it's just my blue eyes. It's just genetics. It's as simple as that.
Sometimes I think women are too, we make this little checklist.
Absolutely.
And if guys don't perfectly check every box on that checklist, then we can be dismissive. So yeah, I think that's again another balance. Like, okay, look for those key things, those goals of who I'm looking for and who I think will fit with me. But then maybe somebody has brown eyes, maybe somebody doesn't necessarily have all of my same taste in music or taste in food, or we don't have to necessarily, it could still be, as long as they, yeah, I think sometimes we over critique
Yeah.
Mhm.
our type.
I kind of feel I wasn't active as a young woman, but my daughter was. And I remember multiple times where they would have young women lessons where they would ask the girls to write their list of their future husband and what they wanted. And I have to wonder, I mean, I get what they're trying to get at because you don't want your child to settle, but I almost feel like, gosh, that's just setting them up to have unrealistic expectations. Like, there's just, if you're gonna, I mean, it's important to have certain things you're looking for, but if you're like getting down to the nitty gritty and you're creating this perfect person, this perfect spouse, guess what? None of us are perfect, so no one's gonna fit that mold. And so sometimes I think the culture in the church can hinder the youth in that way. I don't think that's the same with the males. It doesn't seem like they have to make a list of their what they want to be in a wife, but it seems
Although
like young
that
women,
might be a good
that's what
idea
they do.
though.
Maybe.
I think it's a
As
good
long
idea.
as you're not like, as long as you're focused on more things that are attributes rather than like, physical appearance or, things like that. I mean, it's good to have attraction, obviously. If there's a big disparity in that area, that's probably not a good thing. But yeah, hopefully people are looking for honesty or kindness or.
Do you think it'd be a better option to like, let's make a list of the type of wife you want to be? Like, to me, that seems like, okay, that's something I can do to become
Mhm.
someone who I want to be.
No, I like
If you're
that.
that person, then you're going to track the type of person that you connect with or that you kind of are similar to.
Well,
So I
think
almost feel like that would be a better route than saying, okay, here, make your list of your perfect spouse.
right. Well, and think how we do marketing. You think of your target market, like your target customer, and then you kind of like, what is he or she looking for? Where do they congregate? What social media are they reading? And how can I be there and can I share these things with them? Now, obviously, we're not marketing. It's not like we're selling something, but at the same time, get to know who you want. Where does this woman or this man spend time? What things do they value? What hobbies do they have? What are they like? And so what kind of women or men would they be attracted to?
Yeah.
And then look at your life and just say, in what areas am I already that? And in what areas am I not even close? And rather than give up, take steps at least in that direction, not because you have to please anyone. It's just, I just want to fit into the category of the kind of woman that I want to be with. That's all.
To who you want to attract, but not necessarily in a fake way. Have it
Right.
be genuine.
Or so that,
Genuine.
To make her love me or say, in other words,
No.
I want her to spontaneously love
Manipulation.
me.
Yeah.
It's almost more, I want things to not get in the way of us finding the more important things about each other, and so if I'm irresponsible with my money, if I don't take care of my health, if I, it's if that becomes a distraction, then all the good qualities about me sort of get lost, and I want those to be able to shine through, basically. But
Well,
they won't. If I'm more of a weirdo than I already am, I think it's just going to get too distracting.
I think people need to be kind of realistic too. And maybe that's the part of like at the beginning when you're sitting down, having an honest assessment with yourself, what got kind of you to this point, for lack of a better way of putting it, and a divorce, all of those sort of things. But too many people come in and it's like they just simply are ready to like heal that wound and they want to jump off the diving board right away. And they're like, I want a supermodel now and everything else. Yeah, I might be 100 pounds overweight, but dang it, she better be in shape. And I'm like, it doesn't match up. It doesn't make sense. You need to be honest about where you're at in life. So like John's talking about finances, for example. I want someone who's going to come in and be great at finances because I'm terrible at it. Well, if you find someone who's great at finances, why would she want to be with someone who's terrible with finances? You know what I mean? Like,
For sure.
Be real about what you are able to attract and what you're looking for.
Which is another SMART goal. Be realistic. I
Yep.
mean, that's part of a goal setting mind frame. Like you can't just come up with some crazy plan like you're saying, I'm going to marry a supermodel. Like, okay, that happens very rarely to people, but usually it's not a realistic goal. So
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with any kind of goal that we set, right? It
Right.
it needs to be attainable. It needs to be whatever steps you take, you need to plan out those steps. You need to, have things that we practice or do routinely or do on a regular basis to help us reach, whether it's sales goals, with work, whether it's fitness, whether it's, whatever it is, we have to kind of, okay, this is where I want to be, but how do I get there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in practicing, post divorce, we're out of practice.
And
I
to be
think there's some
honest,
people don't know how to date anymore. So sometimes you just have to start and get some practice.
I agree.
yeah. And to follow up with that, I think if we make goals and we have something that's like, look, I'm unrealistic about this goal right now, that might not necessarily be a bad thing to say, I would like that as a goal, but I'm not there yet. Like I want somebody who's financially responsible and I'm not. And so maybe that's a motivation for myself to get my butt in gear and start working on my finances and get responsible. So, or I want someone who's in shape and they better be, going to the gym a lot. Okay, well, maybe I should do that. Right. Like if those are the things you want, be willing to do that, but don't change who you are just to like try and
That's the
track
key.
that.
Yeah. I think there's balance in this too. I think balance is just a great thing for a lot of things in life, but definitely for dating. And it's kind of like stretch yourself, try to always look for ways to improve, but don't drive yourself into the ground trying to pretend you're something you're not either.
Right.
And on the one hand, be realistic, knowing that, if you're way far away from this person you're attracted to and they're just not attracted to you, don't be destroyed by that. At the same time, don't be afraid to, maybe go for somebody that you think may be out of your league. You never know. They may really value a lot about you that you take for granted, and so, I say, find the balance and just say, I'm gonna ask out somebody that I think, maybe it's a risk. At the same time, I'm gonna improve myself so that it feels less risky, and I can broaden the people that are attracted to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Myrna, tell us about some of the crazy stories you've had so far. Have you run into some where you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to have like a rape whistle and like mace in my hand at all times with this person? I mean, has it been that scary, or have you?
No, because I think I do a lot of vetting. I'm not very spontaneous. I think the handful of times that I have been more spontaneous, like I've just chatted with some briefly and then they are like, hey, let's just meet for a shake, or let's go get an ice cream, something like that, or let's just go get a soda, go get a swig or whatever, without much conversation and getting to know them. There's been something come out in that very first meetup that is just like, whoa, so I think sometimes people rush it. So I found that I have a lot more success and a lot better dates and a lot more connection and actually know if there's potential with somebody if I have a little bit more conversation first and get to know them. And like, it always shocks me sometimes comments that you see in the groups and they're like, I showed up in this, they were this or that, they were that, or I don't know. It's like, did you not know that before you met them? Did you not have any, did you not talk to them at all? Was this a complete draw a name out of a hat and you just decided you're, you know,
Well, and the answer is
whereas,
probably no, oftentimes, because people have these conversations, and I think oftentimes it's just surface level. They
us,
don't really get to know them. I mean, like Celeste was saying in the chat, she had someone who proposed to her like the first day or something like that they talked. I mean, it's people aren't really looking for the right things, and they're not really interested in having these deep relationships. Sometimes they're just like, hey, let's just meet up. I just have this wound that I need to heal. I'm still hurt, but I'm just scattered. It's like the shotgun approach rather than the rifle approach.
and if that's your goal, that's fine, right? Just be upfront about that, because that, if that's where you're at, that's where you're at. But maybe you realize that and you set your goals for that. Like, am I going to date because the end game for me is marriage or a celestial marriage? Am I going to date because I just need to get back out there and meet people and make friends and have fun? Am I going to date because I need something to do so I won't be lonely on a Friday night?
Yeah.
Am I going to date because I just want to go randomly hook up with people because I don't care about the, you know, I just want the physical. Whatever those intentions for dating are for you, that's fine. But analyze those and be realistic and open and let people know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was interesting because when I started into the dating scene here I don't like the apps. I never liked the apps. I didn't use them at all, but I really did connect with the Facebook groups because I could see people, I can see them interact, stuff like that. But a lot of them did have, like you were saying, Mir, like they would just like go and meet someone. Like they'd just show up. They didn't even really know them. They would fly to other states
Yeah.
and have them and meet up with people. And I'm like,
After
what are y'all doing? Like you're gonna get
Oh.
killed. You know, what are you doing? So I personally, I talked to a lot of different people. Probably would have allowed maybe 2 or 3 people to actually come to visit me, like just because that was not the way I decided to deal with things, and it frustrated people. They wanted to come visit. I'm like, no, that's not how I'm doing things. But
or
that's
I'll fly you out to see me, or yeah, and I'm like,
Yep.
no, I don't even know you, nor will I let you buy me a plane ticket yet. No.
no. That's weird. It's like, to me, it was so weird because again, I hadn't dated till mid 90s. So I was like, what is this? You don't just go randomly to someone's place. But that's a lot of people do that and they're comfortable with it. So you just have to realize where you're comfortable. You know, if someone's saying, hey, I want to meet up, I want to fly and visit you, I want to do all this, and you're not comfortable, like it's okay to state your own boundaries and say, nope, that's not how I'm doing it. I need to get to a certain point in the relationship before I feel comfortable. And then maybe I would allow that. But just not up front. But that's a lot of people, that was what they were expecting. So I was really surprised by that.
I mean, I think we're going back to that. Just be open with people about, you know, and let them choose, you know, where they're at on the equation. You know, it's like, I'm looking for an eternal marriage. I mean, I'm not opposed to kissing. It's just that's not what I want it to be all about. I really kind of want, in the beginning, want to just focus on getting to know people. And if they're kind of like, they just want kind of a makeout buddy, you know, then maybe they need to find somebody else, or maybe they need to give you a little time to get to know them first, you know, then we can be makeout buddies. But
that's the joy of makeout buddies. It's like, it's not going to go anywhere. You guys are
I know,
we're just makeout buddies.
I've had makeout buddies before, so
I bet you have, John.
I was quite the guy last go around, but you know, I've become a bit more conservative in my ways this time around.
In the light.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
But
Again, I think
like
that kind of,
let's
I think it changes as you kind of get back. Some people jump right into that. Some people jump right into, they're immediately ready to get married again. Some people, so it's definitely changed for me as I've post-divorce dated. You know, at first I just needed to get out there, and I probably gave more than one guy a second or a third date just because I needed to get back out there, even though I knew there wasn't a connection. But as I've come along, I'm much more selective in dates. I'm much more selective in kind of who gets my time. I've realized, one time I was telling somebody this the other day, one time I had 3 dates in one day, and I just exhausted. And I was just like, you know what? None of those were worth it. I'm just like, why did I do that to myself? So I've kind of realized, especially, everybody's like, oh, how has dating been in COVID? And I said, it's almost kind of a nice little break, because it actually almost forced people to talk a little bit more, or get to know you a little bit more, or get more creative in how you dated, like online or on the phone more, or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was kind of refreshing. And then, yeah, I'm definitely not the girl that subscribes to the girls just need to eat theory anymore. Like, I can feed myself. I don't need to just be entertained or,
What
be
is the
fed.
girls just need to eat theory? I don't think I know that.
A girl's just got to eat. So just if somebody asks you out, just go to have
Oh,
so
you
you
gotta
can
be
eat.
kidding me. Oh wow.
No.
Okay. I've
So
never.
Celeste's
you're
like,
using
ooh.
them for food.
You're like, oh, you're gonna take me out for a steak? All right, I'll let you take me.
I know
Right.
that's kind of the
No.
drawback of being a guy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, I'd much rather save that guy his money and save both
No.
of. I can cook my own steak.
I think that's this topic with this goal thing. I think and dating with like purpose, intention. Like, if you're just out there, oh, I'm just gonna go and have a steak with this dude. Like, is that really gonna get you to your goal? Or do you have, if people live like
That's your
that, and
goal,
do
just to
like
be
that,
fed and
I was gonna
entertained,
say
I
maybe
guess.
that is your goal, but is that a nice goal? I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. That seems kind of not
The guys, if they're
honest. I
really
don't know.
interested.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like I just think like if you're just dating for fun, you can't expect to find a spouse, right? Like, I mean, it might happen by chance, but I think if you're dating with purpose and you have a goal and you're like, okay, I'm not going to just date everybody who pops up and wants to take me on a date. I did a major majority of my dating was one and done. And I know a lot of people do not like that because they were like, you never got to know the person, you didn't give them a chance, blah, 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 blah. But the truth is I knew, I'm like, this is not my person. This is not going to work. So why waste my time and why waste your time? Like, I wouldn't want to lead anyone on. I don't think that's kind. And I don't want to have to sit through more meals or whatever when I have, it's not going to go anywhere. So,
Right.
but that was me. But I guess there's a lot of people that just will just date just to date. But
I think exploiting people for any reason is not cool, and I think we need to be in it and be genuine and be upfront with the people we're with,
right.
What I really want to know is how this 3-date day went. I mean, was she kind of like sitting there? Were you looking at your watch like, okay, look, you got about half an hour, but I got to
Better make
be
it
to my
quick.
next appointment here in just a little bit. Like, that's got to be interesting.
Morning, noon, and night, like breakfast,
Right.
lunch, dinner.
Right.
Uh-huh.
You
Like-
got me till 11:30. After 11:30, I need some time to drive to my next one. So pack in what you need to pack in right now. Impress me if you're going to.
It was
I've had a
nuts.
couple
I
of
was
those
like,
days.
why did I do that? Oh, no, it was just like one park and a picnic. The other one was like just a quick ice cream or something. And the other one was like the park and I don't know, dessert or something in the park or so. I don't know.
So by the end
It
of
was-
the 3rd date, you're like, dude, I can't eat any more food. Like, no more dates with food today.
No,
I'm
I
good.
was,
I'm full.
it was spaced out enough, but no, I was just tight. I was just like, wow, that was exhausting.
Well, so now that you find yourself kind of going through this, you've been in this kind of little cycle for a while now. I'm sure there's guys in the audience that want to know, what is it that you're specifically targeting, I guess? What are you looking for that's different than maybe what you would have started out as? How have you refined your approach?
In dating or between my marriage and now?
Just in dating. So since you've been divorced and you've kind of started going through this dating process again, obviously it gets refined over time. So how have you refined that? What are you looking for? What do you do differently?
I think it's best described as quantity over quality over quantity.
Hmm?
You started like going down the 3 dates a day road again. So I was like, wait, what? Okay. All right. Quality over quantity. Okay. We got you.
So, you know, I
Now it's only 3 dates a week. I'm just kidding.
As long as
may
they're
not
steak,
even be 3
right?
dates a month. No. So, which is fine because, yeah, I've had more time for the rest of my life, because you can spend endless hours trying to get to know somebody and then it just fades away, you know? So, no, but I do. Yeah, I definitely, my intention in dating is with the end goal of having a celestial marriage again.
Mhm.
That doesn't have to happen immediately. I probably, you know, I definitely want to date someone, really get to know them for an extended time. I don't think, you know, I don't think from my first marriage, I would, you know, dated over a year. We're friends for 3 years before that. I don't feel like I
Like
would
there's a lot you do
change a
differently.
lot of that. I would do it the same way again, because I think you know, and I know that some people, like, after dating for 2 weeks or a month, they know and it's good and it may work out for them. But I'm definitely more no, I want to see you in all seasons, and I want you to see me in all seasons. Makeup, no makeup, tired, hangry, you name it, kids, all of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, tell me if you agree that we marry who we date.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
So I think if we really want to date to marry, then that needs to be, we need to pay
I think that's
attention to
a
that.
great
Yeah.
point. You know, that am I dating a person that I legit would consider married?
Right.
Like, seriously. And I got to be honest with you, like, I think probably half the women I've dated, they were great. I mean, I really haven't had many horrible experiences and stuff. But if I were honest with myself, I think I would have to say that I've probably spent half those dates with people that I knew. I just knew this is not someone I'm going to marry,
Right.
you know? And then you have to ask yourself, well, then why are you dating them? You know, like, I can be friends with them. I can have fun with them at like group activities and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean I have to date them. And I think it's okay to just say, hey, for dating, I want someone that I could at least envision the possibility. And then if anything, they could disprove that, you know, just over, not because they make any mistakes. It's just because we're just not compatible and, you know, that kind of thing. I'd rather do it that way. Start with just, you know, someone that you feel a good connection with, and then work your way down. And to me, at some point, you're going to find somebody where there just isn't anything to stop you.
Right.
It's
Just
just,
make sure you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
and that's your person, you know? Anyway,
Yeah.
that's all.
I was just going to say, just make sure you don't state that on any of the singles pages, because you'll get ripped apart. But
No, I get it.
Don't
totally
state
agree.
what.
I totally
Yeah,
agree.
they don't have to know our strategy,
That's
right?
right. No, you have to be on the podcast to learn the strategies. We don't put it out there. But no, like, that's so true. Like, if you look at the person, you think, this would never work marriage wise. I mean, why do it? It's kind of like, if you can't do a long distance relationship, let's say, well, don't interact and have people fly in to see you. Because I've known people, they're like, well, I can't move, but I have people fly in. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Why would you do that? You just need to know, like, and date those, or you should date those that do have the chance of evolving into something. At least that's my opinion. Because I just don't like all of the leading people on. I think that's just not nice.
I feel like I need to do a disclaimer and just say, if I've dated you and you're on this podcast, I'm not talking about you.
No,
So-
not any of it.
I
Nobody
do not
who-
want our audience to be offended. It wouldn't be many of you, but yes, this go around, I feel like I've done it right. I feel like I've only, you know, for the most part, gone out with people that I just feel really good to be with, you know.
I think sometimes that's just part of the process. Sometimes you may make a friend, or sometimes it may take 2, 3, 4 dates to determine, no, I definitely couldn't, you know, or sometimes we need to be open-minded about that. Like the two guys that I dated, it was 7, 8, 9 months. I could have seen myself with both of them. Did it work out? No, but did I still learn and grow and was blessed somehow by knowing them and by spending time with them? Yeah,
for sure. And that's the thing is, I mean, even people where it doesn't work out, a lot of other things can work out. You know, I've even like, I've dated women that I ended up kind of having, you know, talking about business or talking about kids where they just have some really good insights. And I'm glad that I talked to them and they, you know, they told me about some resource I could go look at, and it ended up being something that really helped me. Or, you know, so who knows why we go out with people, you know, and it doesn't all have to be about marriage, you know.
Yeah, sometimes there's connections built for other reasons or in other ways, and you know, yeah, those can,
Yeah, and
just
that's
like you said,
valuable too.
business or
As
whatever.
long as you're open and honest about where you stand, then that works, I think. As long as, if you're like, okay, this probably doesn't have anything other than friendship, as long as the other person knows, then that's great. You know, like you can build a great friendship that way. I think sometimes that maybe that isn't communicated in all situations, and then someone ends up getting hurt. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Well,
I
I
think that's,
loved,
go ahead.
oh, sorry. I've loved what are their names? They wrote the book. It's Intentional Dating or whatever. And their little
Oh,
Lily
yeah.
podcast that they've been
They're
posting.
really, yep.
Like every time they post a new video, I'm just like, oh my gosh, yes, exactly. Like I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Taking the risk. Someone has to take the risk, and someone has to, you know, you have to be honest with your side of things, and yeah, have those open discussions. Like every time I see something new for that, I need to just order the book, but I'm loving all their little cookie crumbs they're dropping.
Take the risk.
They'll
Take
send
the risk,
emails.
Myrna, and buy the book.
You sign up for their emails because they send out emails weekly as well. So
Yeah.
yep. You
Oh,
can
okay.
go to our Facebook page and get that information if anyone's wondering what we're talking about. In fact, I'll add it to the chat.
That's what I was gonna say too, is about being hurt by the, you know, because when you take risks, there's always going to be a chance you're going to get hurt. And you know, what I've learned to do is, like, sometimes I'll be interested in somebody and they end up pairing off with someone else, and sometimes that leads them to get married to that person. But sometimes they've come back, you know, and we're dating again, you know, like we'll go out again, we'll get, you know. And for me, I think it's really important that's why we need to make it between us and God more than us and other people. And just say, hey, you know, if I'm meant to be with somebody, will you just help them, you know, find their way to me? And will you help me recognize that when the time comes? And if they don't, and they move on with somebody else, will you just help me heal that and realize that there's something better for me, you know? And I mean, at some point people got to pair off and see if that's going to work.
Right.
And that doesn't mean they don't love me or that they're not attracted to me or that they think I'm a jerk, or it just means that's the path they chose. And I actually want to be the kind of guy that celebrates that and says, good for you, you know, like, do what you need to do. And if it were to work out with them, I would rather they got that out of the way. Like, I don't know if you've heard the video by Elder Holland about wrong roads, where he says sometimes we have to go down a wrong road so that we can then go back to the right road and never look back and wonder what would have happened if I'd have gone down that other road. And so I like to just let things shake out however they're supposed to, and that can be disappointing, you know, sometimes. I mean, we've had to do that with marriages, for Pete's sake, you know, where it was disappointing, but we all know, I hope we're learning that it can lead to something better.
Well, and whatever that is, like, I'm a firm believer, and I've said this to people as I'm trying to get to know them, you know, and trying to, you know, kind of learn more about them. And because I truly think that the road or the roads we've traveled lead us to the path that we're on right now. And in dating, if you want to see if you're going to be on the same path with someone, you know, what led you here. So
Mm-hmm.
with someone,
I think that there's a huge, like when you talk about, let's see, whoops, sorry, I don't know.
We
Here's
need a mic off.
but when you talk about risking and taking the risk and stuff, like I think a lot of that, like we have to learn to trust. Like that's, I think if you can trust the situation or the process, or even just that the Lord is there with you and will help you if things crumble, whatever. If you can find trust in the person or the process or Lord, that's what's going to allow you to be able to open up and take the risk, I think. I think
Yeah.
that's a key component to being vulnerable and taking that step, I guess.
Yeah, whatever
I
it is, if it's to ask somebody out, if it's to accept a date, if it's to go to a group activity to maybe meet and get to know people, if it's to take it to the next step in, towards a relationship, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what? I mean, confession here. I've literally messaged women that I dated many years ago who, and even a couple of makeout buddies, I might add, but just to let you know, we actually talked too.
Good.
But,
good.
and I have let them know, you know what? You really taught me some valuable lessons in life, and you really boosted my confidence. And you were really sweet to me. And I'll always be grateful that I dated you and that we got to know each other. Like that really mattered to me. And there's nothing about that that's romantic or anything like that. And they've just had the same feeling. They said, that was really an important part of the process of me, finding happiness in a marriage at some point. And that didn't have to be that you and I had to be together. It just, we learned some things from each other, and I think that'll bless us down the road, and so let that process happen, believe in it, and let it turn into, don't get attached to the outcome too much.
Right.
Let it just turn out the way it's meant to turn out, and let people be free to choose.
Yeah.
And and if they're meant for you, they'll come back to you. Yep. At some point it won't work out with the other path they chose, and they'll come back. And if not, that's okay. Someone else, it'll leave room for someone else to come into your life, Yeah,
I agree. I think if you either live in the past or the future, like you're going to hinder yourself. So be in the present, be with that person. Maybe obviously you have to think about the future, obviously, but don't live there, right? Because then that can hinder things. But I totally agree, John. We're going to go ahead and open up to audience participation. So if there's anyone out there, I know that David's first, he's got his hand raised, but if there's anyone else out there that wants to make a comment or ask us questions or anything like that, this is your time. You can come on with mic only, or you can put on your video as well. But feel free to raise your hand, put a chat if you want to be added to the list, but we're going to start with David.
I'm really looking forward to the show when someone raises their hand and they turn on their camera and they got one of those like multicolored wigs on with like big glasses.
Well, don't you
remember? Just kind of like, what do I need to do to my look so that I'm more attractive to the opposite sex?
Next time, John. Next time.
Oh my gosh, that would be hilarious. Please do it, David. If not, I'll have to do it.
I was gonna say, John, I'm like, don't you remember when Steve came on and he was in the shower?
Oh my goodness, that was hilarious.
That was
died.
So funny. I was like, oh, he had shorts on. He promised me he had shorts on, but it was the top.
Right. As long as he's not that sacrament meeting guy.
Yeah.
Well, and Lexi was filming.
That was hilarious.
Just like, what the heck?
I know Lexi was just having a heyday with that. That was funny. Anyway, go ahead, David. Welcome.
Thank you. So I've loved discussion tonight. There's a lot to be said about being honest, whether it's on a friendship level or a relationship level, being intentional and saying, this is what my intention is, and coming to an understanding with that person. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, it's not easy to take risks. We've all been hurt to some degree or another, but allowing yourself, I had been friends with a girl for 6 months. We were greatest friends, and I could see something with her, and so I did take that risk, and ultimately didn't pan out the way that I hoped it would, but I learned a lot of valuable lessons by being vulnerable and saying, this is what I want, and going after it. And you know, we were terrible as a couple. I'm glad I learned that.
That's good. See, you learned something from it.
Yeah,
But sometimes you don't know until you know,
it a
you
shot.
explore.
absolutely. Had I just kept it as a friendship, I wouldn't have known that. And so I was grateful that I just said, you know what, let's do this. And we went for it, and it didn't last very long. But you know, a lot of times we like to play it safe. We, you know, we protect our hearts so much that we don't allow ourselves to experience and to grow and learn from other people. And there's a lot of valuable things that we need through those kinds of interactions.
Right. Even if they're hard lessons.
Mhm.
And you know, and sometimes what we need is a little more pain, you know, a little more heartache to just show us where the weak spots are still.
Yeah,
You
that's a
know?
good way
Yeah.
to look at it. And it brings to mind what you're saying there, David. Because I think of that. It's like, well, if you wouldn't have taken the chance, then would you always wonder, well, what could have been, right? And I think about that
Right.
old country song from back, I think early 90s, and it was called What Might Have Been. And yeah, you don't want to find yourself there. You don't want to find
Great song.
yourself thinking, dang, I wonder what would have happened if I would have took a step toward that individual or whatever, took a step toward dating or asked her out or I don't know, whatever. You don't want to find yourself wondering, because that is not a good place to be.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it. All right, John,
You
you're
know,
up.
that's why
Oh.
I don't second guess my marriages or people I dated in the past. You know, I just figured I needed those life lessons, and I still feel like I was inspired to go the directions I did. And plus I had some really great experiences in those relationships. But I feel like somebody who, when we get to a certain place of healing, I think that's the attitude we take is, what did I learn from, even if those lessons were brutal, you know, can I let them soften me in a way where I'm a better spouse to whoever I end up with, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and that's where I think, to speak to what, you know, back to the trust, is trusting in the Lord, you know, doing our part, but then trusting in the Lord to lead us to that.
Yep.
And
You know,
to
I
help
like
us
what
know that.
I like what John said a little bit ago, where sometimes we need a little more pain so that we can kind of know what to work on. It just sort of, I don't know, visually, I kind of think in my mind, like when you, like, let's say you fall down and get hurt or something, and you run over to the kid and you're like trying to help them. You say, where does it hurt? Right? Like that pain
Mhm.
helps us focus in on that spot. And so when we have those pains, oftentimes we're like, I just want to get out of this as quick as I can. But maybe the idea is to say, this is where I need to put the medicine,
Right.
proverbially speaking. So,
Or you know, you may have an infection, and if you just ignore the pain, that's going to turn into something, you know, where it could literally take your life. And pain can be a good thing. That, you know, there are children with a genetic flaw where they're born without pain sensation, and they just damage themselves constantly, and they all tend to die young, you know, usually from injuries to their organs or something, and they don't feel it. And so they literally will bleed out of their liver in the night, you know, or they will get an infection that they don't feel, or, you know. And so be grateful for pain, you know, and that includes emotional pain, you know, and it tells you where the injury still is and where the healing needs to happen.
Great point. Good job, John.
Thanks.
It's like almost like you're a therapist or something. It's just
What? How?
like you know what to say.
Really?
Like you got knowledge.
Oh, I always wanted to be a therapist.
Well, you're almost there. I tell you, you're getting there.
I'll get there sooner or later.
I think I can. I think I can.
Right.
All right, John Hamilton, you're up.
John's going to show up with his colorful wig. I know. I could just
No.
hear him saying, challenge
Great.
accepted.
Right.
Challenge
Yeah,
accepted.
here he goes.
Challenge accepted.
Camera
No,
Ryan.
I can't turn my camera on, so you know.
Oh, I can help you. I can give you that.
All right. So
Shall receive, John.
Where's your wig, John?
I shaved it all off.
Oh,
So you grew rainbow fuzz and then you shaved it? Like, you could have made
Yeah.
millions of dollars.
Millions.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm known as Fabio Sparklemane. In any case,
What a combo.
have I've just learned a lot this last year about that kind of expectations thing. It's kind of hard to put into words. I had a dating experience where I met somebody and they were perfectly imperfect the way I felt comfortable with, right? And I realized that I was putting a lot of expectations on things like looks that I probably couldn't meet. I realized that I was putting a lot of expectations on, they've got to be perfect in so many different ways. I kind of have learned two big things this year, and one of them I've gotten to experience the friendship thing. Luckily, me and Michelle met, I think, back in January or something, January or February, and we immediately kind of recognized this propensity we both have to have makeout buddies in the past. And I've actually, since my divorce, really tried not to kind of go down that rabbit hole. And I think both of us realized, hey, you know what? We shouldn't do that. That's not what we're going to do. In fact, we're not going to date. We're not going to try to do anything. We just happen to be the same type of person that has kind of the same type of energy level and the same type of interests and things like that. And we are in the same locale, and we should just do things together sometimes, And we did that from that time until September. And I don't even know what happened, but she was having some medical issues and some different things, and it seemed like a good time to take care of her. And suddenly that friendship was like, it was such a big foundation that, and she had things, and all the things that we feel together as friends were such a big foundation for feeling like this just feels comfortable and right to date this person now. So yeah, I've had a lot of experience with that this last year.
Yeah, I think we got to follow that, that inspiration.
And that other dating experience that I had, I think really prepped me for this, feeling like, you know what, I'm no spring chicken either. And I am so focused on all this being able to laugh all the time with somebody and being able to go and do activities with somebody and all that I feel like, you know what do looks provide us? What do looks provide us? What does sexual contact provide us? I mean, some of the sexual contact stuff is very important, but I think sexual contact can happen between two trolls and be just as good as it is with two supermodels. You know what I'm saying? So it's really not that important for two perfectly good-looking people to make things work perfectly. So many other pieces come into it, and then that sexual contact or any kind of romantic contact is just going to be, that's part of our relationship. It's not what our relationship's defined on. I also feel like there's a lot of, I see, especially in groups and things, a lot of moral listings. He has to be this, he has to be that. Well, what happens if you just find somebody that morally is comfortable with you and morally comfortable with themselves, and anything that's lacking, you guys decide are your problems together, not individually, that they don't need to be perfect before you start dating them.
Yeah, that's why I don't bring up that I won Mr. Dad Bod America contest. It's because I don't want it to be about my incredible physique.
It's not
Well,
about-
sometimes too, John, you just don't need to state the obvious.
It's an incredible physique. In fact, you should stand up in front of the camera right now.
To some, it might be considered incredible.
I mean, we just have to recognize our age, first of all. I mean, I know it's mid-singles. I've kind of aged out of mid-singles, but the thing is that obviously you want attraction. It's not like you don't want to be attracted to, your mate or your whatever, but you just got to keep it realistic. And it's like, we're not 25 anymore. We're 35 and 45 and in our 50s. And so we just got to keep realistic. And that's a smart goal. That's the art. Be realistic. So,
Yeah.
Well, and we're all going to have flaws of some kind.
Yep.
And then you have to ask God to, is this something that that I could be a good influence on, or that I could learn from, or that could actually be a blessing to me? Somehow this person who struggles, maybe they struggle with their health, maybe they struggle with their conviction and, commitment to, the faith or whatever. And there might be deal breakers for you. Just be clear about what they are, but be willing to stretch a little bit, especially on the things that I think don't matter in an eternal perspective, if that makes sense,
I also think that there's a lot that comes with a person's direction. And I think the first time I heard this, I heard it from Dave Ramsey in a financial perspective, that we can't look at anybody's life and go, oh, that person is poor or that person is rich. We can look at that. We have to look at it more in the terms of that person is at this point in their life, at this very moment, this thing, and they're headed this direction.
Mm-hmm.
They are poor, but they have good financial habits, and they're headed in the right direction. And I think that's a very, very important thing that we forget a lot of times, is that I believe morality works a lot the same way, and faith works a lot the same way. Is are you connecting yourself to a person who is, morally or ambiguous in the faith a little bit and headed in the wrong direction?
Right.
Or are you connecting yourself to a person that is at the top of their game and going to fall? Or are you connecting yourself to a person who is learning, and you're seeing them learn and watching them evolve before you? Because I think that's an amazing person.
Yeah.
In many cases.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm going to say one thing real quick. And it's interesting because I feel like sometimes, going along with what you're saying, like, we are looking for someone who doesn't have baggage, right? But at our age, whether you've been divorced or not, whether you're widowed or never been married, whatever, there is baggage that comes with all of our lives. And so if you're like, well, this person has baggage, is whatever, I'm not sure if I want to deal with all that.
Yep.
And again, I think there is boundaries on that. But if you're like, I'm just going to move on from this individual because I don't want the baggage, guess what? The next person you find is going to have baggage too. Like, it is what it is. It's par for the course. You just have to kind of figure out what you're willing to accept and what you're not, and then not look for perfection. All right. So we have got one more hand. Thank you, John, for coming on.
Yep.
We appreciate it. We're going to take one more hand. We're going to do Jessica Lynn. So come on in. Welcome to the show, Jessica. Do you need help with?
Okay, let's see. I think I got myself unmuted.
Let me give you your video. I did give you
Yeah,
your
got
video.
it.
There you are. Hi.
I'm loving this discussion. I think something that's helping me is, if you come from a place of humility, then I think God's able to guide you about what things you can improve on. And like for me in a previous relationship, it was like, okay, well, what makes a healthy relationship? There's actually a lot of things involved. I mean, obviously you want to be attracted to them, you want them to be a healthy person and, treat you nice. But there's a lot of
Okay, Jessica, you're cutting out. We can't.
We're losing you, Jessica.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Houston,
We heard you were saying that they're a lovely person and they treat you nice, and then you were kind of gone.
Well, I was just trying to say that, like, there's other things you may not think about that make it successful, that are things that you can improve on. They don't have to be just dependent on your personality. Like, how good are you at organizing? How, like, I went in prayer, like I had this long list, from my Heavenly Father. Hey, Jess, you need to work on this, work on that, work on this, work on this. And so it hurt at first to hear all of these ways that I was imperfect. But at the same time, I was grateful for the feedback so that I could go and, do something about it. And it's actually kind of a joyful process to do that.
Yeah, in the scriptures it states the Lord wants us to see our weaknesses, because if we can't see them, he can't make them our strengths, right? So having that humility, like you said, allows us to see our weaknesses. And yeah, sometimes it's not fun to see all the things that we're imperfect at.
It's a little self-compassion at the same time. I'm still lovable. I'm not perfect.
I'm not perfect, but I'm still a good person. I'm still going to be a good spouse to somebody. We have to give positive feedback, but it's so true. We need to see our weaknesses. That's how we.
Yeah, and I think you might not even, they might not be important to you, but they might be important to somebody else. Even how your kids get along if you're going to be planning a family, or
right,
just different things like that.
Yeah.
Jessica, I remember trying to think about and analyze, okay, what did I hear from my ex on my faults and things that I did wrong, or things that I should have done, or things that I didn't do, or whatever, and of course you have to take that with it. And I really kind of beat myself up for a while over, gosh, I really wish I knew, honestly, not with this bud, or not, really truly from him, what my weaknesses, what my mistakes, what my ownership in the divorce was, what did I do wrong? What could I do better? And somebody told me, you know what? Let it go and just work on the things that you think about that way for yourself, because those same things may not matter to somebody else. They may not matter to the next person.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I say something about that? And it just came into my mind because I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of my clients are single. And one thing I notice about a lot of them is a lot of body image issues and that kind of thing. And so don't think for a minute that over a 22-year therapy career that I haven't done some research on some of those issues. And here's what's interesting. No matter what you look like, there is an entire segment of the population that finds that attractive. Listen, I know, and by the way, there are men and women who find a wide range of looks attractive. You know what I mean? It's wider than you might imagine. And it's made even more attractive when you have an incredible personality and have good character, and you start adding all that stuff in. And, but there are men who love curvy women who are big. There are men who love skinny women. There are men who love everything in between. So I see these women worried about, how they look. And I just think to myself, listen, be active. I say the same thing to men. Just be active and take care of yourself, but don't obsess. I would focus way more on just being an incredible person who is authentic. And that is super sexy. Smiling is super sexy. Happiness, being positive, or being open even when you're not positive, and just being real. That is so incredibly refreshing.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Amen to that, John.
Absolutely.
Good
yeah.
Thank you, Jessica, for your comment.
Yes. Well, okay, we have kind of run a little long in the tooth here tonight, but I just wanted to kind of wrap this up and say, Myrna, thank you so much for the insights on this. And I know there's a lot of people who tune into this that sort of find themselves in these situations and struggling, trying to figure out, how do I move forward? Have I moved forward enough? Have I healed enough? What do I need to do? How do I navigate this crazy world? And I just hope that tonight there are some people who have heard this or will watch this later that will find some benefit and be able to kind of get some of the healing that they need and move forward in their lives. And thank you for your insights, Myrna. I appreciate it. It's been a good discussion tonight. I think that this has been Very helpful.